since the very beginning of me starting to make music, I've always struggled with time management. And I think it's something that a lot of people probably deal with when it comes to working on their own music or mixing for people or producing. We never know when something's going to be done. It could take 1 hour, it could take 10 hours. We've got no real idea of when it's going to be done. And the things we think are going to be quick usually wind up taking the longest. The things that we think are going to be long could be quick. There's no way to predict it. So this makes it hard for everyone in the life of the person doing that. Now, people who have their own, if they're entrepreneurs, if they are people who work for themselves, they may understand this, but it's really hard to understand this to the level of what it could wind up being and how really uncomfortable that could be for everyone else who winds up having to wait or being canceled on. Such a common thing. So what I've noticed for me is, I'm somebody who doesn't have a ton of obligations. I'm not married. I don't have kids. So it's easier for me than it would be for a lot of people to put in the time it takes to get things done and do it consistently and basically go that extra mile all the time, because you have to. Like, I wouldn't say that this is what you have to do if you're not trying to really put in as much as you can possibly put in order to get as far as you can get, because that's really what I've always been trying to do, to make it in music. And no excuse was going to be good enough for me, but that didn't mean I always worked to my fullest potential, fullest extent. But as soon as I started to do that, what I really noticed was I have to cancel on people all the time. I have to tell all these people in my life, I'm not available. I can't do that. I'm sorry, I can't make this. If I have plans with friends for a hangout, sorry, I can't be there at 5. I got to be there at 9. This is a very common thing. And a lot of times I'd be wrong. Whatever I would predict the time to be done, I'd be wrong all the time. So I don't think I'm the only one that struggles with this kind of thing. I think when you're a slave to the creative clock, as JJP put it, you really have no choice but to work until it's done. Because without having a set idea of what that's going to take, because nothing is the same twice, you can't predict it. So because of that, everyone else is forced to take a back seat. Of course, barring emergencies, family emergencies or anything like that, everything else is second to me. So that's actually why, it's rare I take time to hang out with friends. And if you don't, you'll lose friends. It's rare I take time to spend any quality kind of personal time with anybody I'm interested in. It's rare. And this is because what I do is the most important thing. For me, there's nothing more important than doing what I do to the best of my ability every day. Check out this video real quick. This was on the Produce Like a Pro channel. It's the best interview probably I've ever watched. It's on my top 3 probably, and it might be the best. Jack Joseph Puig, Warren Hart interview. I always say his name wrong, but it's because with my accent, it's kind of hard to say Hewitt. But anyway, Jack Joseph Puig, interviewed by Warren Hewitt, however I can't say it, talking about what it means. And literally, this is the best definition I could have ever come up with for it. So check this out. And fair use for teaching purposes. Fair use for teaching purposes. Here we go.
This basically is the other woman.
Right. No, I understand.
It is. It's the other woman in your life. Or for a woman, it's the other man, however you want to look at it. But
Yeah.
It's the competitive aspect to your relationship, because it obsesses your mind. You think about it all the time. You love it.
Mm-hmm.
You take care of it. You groom it. You want to empower it. That's a relationship. It's a lifestyle. This is not a hobby. If you choose to do this, you got to be all in. It's a lifestyle. Almost everything else takes a backseat. Almost. It's the truth.
Trust me, I fully understand, yeah.
Most of us go through 2 and 3 marriages. It's not uncommon. If you talk to the guys that are very successful, they're on the 2nd or the 3rd marriage. It's the truth. When we can I can lie but you gotta understand that this is what you're making a commitment. It's serious. And for us, in a position that we're in, We just go from one to the next. Remember, the artist or the band, whatever it is, now they go do something else. Next one. They want to go to 2 in the morning too. They don't, well, I was just doing this other, okay, well, that was those guys. What are they called? I don't even know those guys. This is my record. They want full attention, full everything. But this is your 5th one that you've done. Now you're at month 5, let's say, or more 3 of the, whatever it is. Producing, mixing is all different, right? Recording as far as time. But it's a commitment. And I can't tell you how many times I've been driving home listening, and I'm like, this ain't right. Call the studio, guys, power it back up, I'm coming back in. It's 12:30, I know. It's not right. Ours is coming at 11, we don't got it. But it's 12:30, it's almost 1, I know. Light it all up on my way back. That's what it takes. That's a lifestyle. I'll never forget being in a session, there was this assistant. And we're working, and his cell phone rings. And this is what I hear. I only hear this side. I know. And I really thought that this session be, I know I said 7, but that it's still, look, I want to spend time with your mom too. And I know she's out. Look, I'm not saying that we can do it on Saturday. I know last time I said that, I didn't do it. But I really will try. This is the conversation he's having. And I know what she's saying on the other end. And I thought, guy is just a wreck. And I understand it from her standpoint too. Her mother's from out of town. He promised to be there. But what do? I know producers, famous producers, that thought, okay, I've arrived now. I only work to 7 p.m. I'm sure you've heard the stories. Mm-hmm. Now what do? The guy's like singing, or the girl's singing, or someone's doing whatever, and it's like, on. Excuse me, we're stopping the session? I don't think so. That's why I say it's a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. You are a slave to the creative time clock. It will tell you when you're going to stop. No wife, no husband, no mother-in-law, nothing. The only thing that will stop it in its tracks is someone got in a car accident. The thing that concerns me now when I look at this is I have missed weddings. I have missed birthday parties, all kinds of things. And at the time, I didn't go to those things because the record had to be done. There was a deadline. I can tell you the weddings or the birthdays I've missed, but I can't tell you the record that stopped me from going to it. Mm. That's something to think about.
Yeah.
This really hits the nail on the head for me. It's something that I think some people aren't prepared for. The more obligations you have, the harder it will be for you to put in the time. It's still possible to do it. You'll just have to get better at juggling. Whereas somebody like me, I'm just really trying to explain to you that it is hard, very hard, not to disappoint everyone all the time when it comes to where I told them I'd be, and I can't because I'm not done. That statement he made about power it back up, I'm coming back in, this happens to me all the time. Something I think I could be done with, and then I listen on something else. Turns out I'm not. Now I got to go back and make more changes. And what I thought I was going to be able to get done and then leave, I can no longer leave. I've got to keep it working until it's really done. This is a daily thing. Now, I've stressed to you guys before the concept of, trust yourself, trust your instincts, a way to get done with mixes quicker. This is all true and things you should do. But that's actually until you reach a certain level. Like once you get to the point where you're not making a bunch of decisions which make all your mixes worse all the time because you never trust yourself about, you don't trust your ears, you don't trust your decision, you don't trust what it sounds like. So you keep changing, keep trying to go for that better, and you never really know when you hit it, when it's right. That's really what that's for. Once you get to the point where you can trust your ears, you know what stuff sounds like, and you just really know it's not done. You know it's not there. This is the upper level, the higher level of understanding of when something's done. Once you're there, this happens because it's not a question if it's done or not. You know it's not done, and then you have to put in that extra time. So things people do in order to make this more, palatable, the idea of having a relationship palatable, the idea of being able to take care of your family while still working, because that's the other thing. Everybody who works is usually, you're not doing it just for yourself. You're working to be able to support a family. You're working to be able to take what you're doing and have it pay off and give back to your family through this. So your family, your support system has to be understanding. That's number one. But number two, you can make it easier on yourself by doing what the pros have done in, the years of late, not that long, ever since people started being able to record out, off of a major console. You could take recording to the house. You could be recording at home. And that's why everybody like Jack Joseph Puig now works from home. Andrew Sheps works from home. People build their studios in their houses now to be able to hit pause, not hit stop on the project they're working on. Because that's the thing I have to stress is it's very different for me, at least mentally, when I hit pause on something and I'll break away and be able to hang out for a little and take my break and then come back and keep working. When your family is in the house and you're able to work from home and your studio's in your house, you can do that. It's so easy to mentally say, this isn't there, but I got to come back to it. And you just pause and dip. Whereas it's very hard to do that when you have to power everything down, leave your studio for a certain, you got to drive home, then you got to be there, then you got to come back. It makes it so much harder to leave. So what I would say is you got to take your cues from the way everybody's working now, which is if you can, and you can work for yourself, working from home is such a benefit because it does allow you to spend a little more time with the people you care about and still be able to get the amount of time and work into the projects you need to. So that's why this is the most common thing now. But just the flip side is a guy like Brendan O'Brien. I couldn't help but realize that when he's talking to Rick Beato about he doesn't like working from home because he gets the feeling his family's waiting for him. Since they know he's home, he can't work knowing his daughters want him to hang out and stuff like that. So I got that concept too. He built multiple studios in his house and never used any of them. So he likes working away from the house. So it's not like there's one right way for this and everybody does it one way. It's definitely some people like one, some people like the other. But I am somebody who cannot stop what I'm doing before it's finished. Before I know it's great, I don't want to stop. And that's why there's been so many moments where I couldn't keep a time schedule with somebody that I had plans with. So what I basically want to illustrate is that obligations, the more you have, the harder it will be for you to actually get where you want to go when it comes to this job we have, which is super creative. It's super competitive. So because of that, it's so competitive and so creative, it takes everything. That's why when you look at this interview that we just played, you could see it in JJP's eyes. When he says it's a commitment, he's dedicated his life and committed to doing this. And he's able to reap the rewards of that. Now, what I'm trying to say is if you really want to get somewhere at this, you must look at it that way, that you must commit everything you have to it. And your obligations will always be there. So I'm not saying you have to, there's certain things you're always going to have to do. If you have a family, if your kids are counting on you to feed them, you got to go feed them. If you got a wife who's, in the hospital giving birth, you got to be there. If there's, things that are, emergencies, you're going to have to attend. But that's the always, right? The thing I found that happens is you got to really manage your time very well. You've got to cut the stuff that's extraneous fun. That's the stuff that goes. So, and I said earlier, if you want to have friends, you got to be able to meet up with the friends every once in a while. But that's the stuff that goes first is like hanging out and having a beer. Can't do it. But stuff that's, that you determine you really have to do, you do, obviously, when it comes with stuff for your friends. Because if you don't, you won't have the friends. But that's really what it is this balance. And I am one that's not very good at managing time to be able to do all the things that, I would ideally like to do. But the truth is, I'm picking doing this. I'm choosing doing this. Now, a lot of people will say, well, what's the point of doing that if you don't have a guarantee you're going to be successful? Because that's the other thing. There's never a guarantee. You don't have a guarantee you're going to even wake up tomorrow morning. So let's just ignore the facts that nothing's guaranteed. All that's guaranteed is if you really care about anything and you're that dedicated to it, then you have a chance of actually winning. If you're not that dedicated and you don't really care, you don't. And this applies to mixing, being an artist, producing. It's all the same. In a field, in a world like this, that it's so competitive and where the creative clock is something we have no control over, is when we're riding that wave of it's going great, we cannot stop. Everyone else has to be understanding and supportive of this. So, I'd love to hear your stories, because I have a ton where I've made plans and was unable to make the plans, and I would feel terrible after, and people would be disappointed. My family would be mad at me. This is something that is, I feel like, so common. So many of us must share these. You're not alone. I'm sure you are not alone. I'd love to hear these stories. If you could share them, I think we would all feel a little less alone, because this is a lonely business. It's one of those things where you will be alone most of the time, pounding your head against the wall, trying to get things to sound right, trying to get your, whatever creative idea you have achieved in some fashion. And everyone else who's in your life, your support system, has to understand who you are and that you've decided to dedicate yourself to this. And there has to be an understanding there. Otherwise, you will be fighting it all the time, and it's not going to be easy. But I want you to know, if you do work in this way, where you're so dedicated and you care more about the result than anything else, and you're willing to put in all this time consistently, constantly, then it becomes something where the reward is indescribable. I can't even describe how great it feels to actually achieve anything when it comes to putting in all this effort, because that in and of itself is a reward. Just knowing you tried as hard as you possibly could is its own reward. But beyond that, as you get a little more success in any shape or form, if you're an artist, you get more listeners, you get better response for whatever you did. Now all of a sudden people are talking to you, they want to hear what you have next. Now all of a sudden there's more of a crowd coming to your shows, there's more interest. This reward is indescribable. So it's worth it for me. And I don't know if it's worth it for you, but I know that there's been a lot of sacrifices made. And I feel like we've all sacrificed very similar things, because that's something I really understand, is that people like you and people like me, we are the same. There's so many of us that are the same. And there's a lot of people that maybe don't understand this mindset of this is all we want in the world. This is all we care about. This has to work. We have to become successful, and not just for us, for everyone that we care about, that we take care of. We all feel this. So literally, I'd love to hear the stories, and I think the more of us chime in about this kind of thing, the more people will really understand that they're not alone. I need to know how you handle time, how you manage it. Maybe I'll get some ideas, because it's one thing I've truly not yet conquered, and every time something comes up where I can't make something I promised I'd be at this and I can't be there, it eats me up, but I know I'm doing it for the right reasons. That's the thing. I have no doubts that what I'm doing is right, because there's no doubt in my mind that this is what I am here to do. That's the beauty of being solidified in your beliefs. You have no doubts. It's worth it to you. And if you have that feeling, then you've got, in my opinion, a better chance than most. Because nobody who gets extremely successful doesn't feel this way. They've all felt this way. So you're not alone. I'd love to hear it. I'm going to read your comments, and, hopefully it'll make me feel better about my own time management dysfunction. But anyway, talk to you guys soon. Subscribe if you haven't already, all right? I appreciate it. Evan Jaffe, Custom Cut Studios. You guys got this. Seriously. You got this.